Hello, and welcome to the pilot episode of the Five Starr Wrestling Report, a channel dedicated to bringing you all of the news, reviews, recaps, and opinions in wrestling today. Got a very special edition to kickstart this series. I'm going to be recapping several shows from several different promotions, including the fallout from last week's AEW Fight for the Fallen, Days 1 through 4 of the new Japan G1 Climax, some talk about the current WWE and NXT product, as well as some other general wrestling news. And before I begin, I would just like to take a moment to plug this channel and to let you all know about the schedule for the FSWR going forward. Make sure you hit that subscribe button and click on that notification bell to receive all notices for new uploads and postings. Videos will be posted every Monday morning. Topics of discussion will include wrestling news reports, pay-per-view live event reviews and recaps, and general opinion discussions. The plan is to make videos as interactive as possible, so please be sure to leave your comments and thoughts on the videos, share your feedback, and I will try to be as responsive as I can. So with all the plugs and pre-reporting out of the way, let's jump into the discussion. I'll start with the WWE news, since it's the first thing on my list here. Fallout from Extreme Rules 2019 from Sunday, July 14th. So I know I'm a little late to the party on this one, but for those of you that need a refresher, WWE had Brock Lesnar cash in Money in the Bank to win back the Universal title from Seth Rollins. And first thing I'll say is that when I read that headline from Joseph Courier over at Wrestling Observer, Brock Lesnar cashes in Money in the Bank briefcase at WWE Extreme Rules, I laughed. And then I sat there in confusion for 24 hours, wondering to myself, well, who was supposed to challenge Brock for the belt now? And what do you do with Seth Rollins? And then Raw happens. Seth Rollins wins a battle royal to earn a rematch against Brock at SummerSlam. And now I'm even more confused than I was after Sunday night. And I guess what my confusion really boils down to is this. Obviously, there's a reason that Vince took the belt off of Seth. Let's take a look at this, just to give it some context. The Raw ratings from the time frame of January 7th until April 1st, which was the go-home show to Mania, averaged to about a 2.645 over a 4-month period. The highest rated show was a 2.922 from February 25th, and the lowest rated show was a 2.324 from January 7th. This is according to James Dixon over at WrestleTalk. So this is when Brock was still the champion. Now let's fast forward from the Fallout Raw after Mania until now. The ratings from April 8th until July 15th averaged a 2.394 over a 4-month period. Highest rating was a 2.9 from the post-Mania Raw, and obviously that's to be expected because traditionally the Raw after Mania is one of the most watched shows of the year. And the lowest rated show was a 2.125. This is from June 10th. So obviously there's a big drop-off in viewership since Seth won the title at Mania. Is that entirely his fault? No. I'm not saying that. Is he a contributing factor to the problem? Well, based on numbers, I'd say yes. My point is this. Seth as the champion really wasn't working. They needed to go a different direction for SummerSlam. They needed to set up some kind of story for the next month. And their idea was, let's put the belt back on Brock to build up a chase for the title storyline. So, what is their big idea? They have Seth win a battle royal on Raw to set up Brock versus Seth for the title at SummerSlam. Someone needs to explain this to me. Because for the life of me, I can't figure it out. Seth won the Rumble and beat Brock for the belt at Mania. So when I read that Brock cashed in and beat Seth for the title, the first thing that came to my mind was, oh, okay, well, clearly they're going in a different direction creatively. Maybe they'll do the rematch with Balor and Lesnar from the Rumble. Maybe they'll have AJ go after the title. I mean, he's 0-2 against Lesnar in singles competition anyway. It'd be a cool redemption story. Maybe this is the opportunity for them to finally crap or get off the pot with Braun Strowman after several years of wasting him. Maybe they go with Bobby Lashley. I mean, there's a big dream match right there that we've never seen before. I mean, they have them both locked under contract now. I cannot imagine why they would not do Lashley and Lesnar at some point. Or, maybe they do Roman Brock for the 849th time, God forbid. There's an unending list of options they could have potentially gone with. But then they just have Seth win a battle royal to get a rematch for the title. And there is a dilemma here that needs to be addressed. And this is something that I have not seen any news articles write about, and it's actually kind of shocking to me. Seth has already beaten Brock for the title. And, what's more, he beat him in the opening match at Mania in 2.5 minutes. So what does Seth really have to gain by beating Brock at SummerSlam again? Just to prove that the cash-in was a fluke? Is that really a satisfying redemption story? Okay, and let's play devil's advocate. What if Brock beats Seth? Well, then we're right back to the status quo of where WWE has been for the last 2.5 years. In either case, nothing feels resolved or culminated in the story. Which leads me to think that they have something else up their sleeve planned. And for the record, this is purely speculation on my part. This is not reported anywhere. It's not documented evidence of occurrence. This is purely a theory of mine. SmackDown premieres on Fox Sports on October 4th. Obviously, they're going to want to do something big for that show. They're going to be trying to counter-program with AEW, which, by the way, yes, for those of you keeping track, their TV debut on TNT does happen 2 days prior to WWE going over to Fox for SmackDown. I think they'll have a big title change on that show. And while they could hypothetically have Kofi drop the WWE title, the Universal title is a bigger deal. There's more appeal in seeing a babyface challenger beat Brock. Brock will garner more initial viewership. I mean, especially if they announce a title match in advance, which I assume is what they plan to do. So, I think they're going in that direction. Is it 100% guaranteed? No. Is it possible that they have Brock hold on to the belt for another 6 to 9 months? Believe me, I would not put anything past WWE in 2019. I mean, with some of the mind-boggling and baffling decisions they've made just this year, nothing would surprise me at this point. Although I do believe that Brock as the Universal Champion is very short term. So for those that are having conniptions about it and all up in a storm about it, don't worry. It's probably not long term. Is it potentially long term? Yes, but I don't think it is. All right. And speaking of AEW's upcoming television debut, I think this would be a good time to give some general thoughts on where AEW is right now as a company. They've had a few shows now. They've had some time to adjust and work out the kinks, and now I just want to take some time to talk about what I think is working with All Elite Wrestling and what I think is not working with All Elite Wrestling. And what I'm going to do, just to conserve time, is I'm going to use their Fight for the Fallen show as a model to discuss the pros and cons, because I think there was enough material on that show that covers the grounds for what AEW is doing right and things that they need to fix. In terms of what AEW has going in their favor, I think most people would agree that they're getting a lot of things right when it comes to the booking. The stories are simple, the plot progression from show to show makes sense, the right guys win and the right guys lose, they don't have the WWE syndrome of 50-50 booking. All of these are positives. Another pro that AEW has going for them: production. The shows feel major league. They're mic'd well, the lighting is well done, the camera angles are good for audio and visual. It doesn't feel like I'm watching an indie show where the sound quality is garbage, and the microphones don't work, and the lighting in the arena is too dark so you can't see a thing that's going on in the ring. You can actually see the audience, which does make for a better show, believe it or not. I mean, AEW has really hit it off well with the production. Something else that ties in with the production, the stage sets. They always look really well put together. They put detail into their staging. They go out of their way to make things look presentable. They actually bother to change up the staging from show to show. This is something AEW is already surpassing with WWE. For the most part, the matches are laid out well. There's ebb and flow. Not every match is wrestled the exact same way. Some are more spot fest oriented than others. Some are worked as traditional Japanese style matches. You got the occasional comedy match here and there. You got great and memorable moments like the stuff they did with Cody and Dustin from Double or Nothing. These are all good qualities for AEW, and these are things that they need to stick with going forward. I still think it's absolutely ridiculous that it takes Adam Page nearly 20 minutes to beat Kip Sabian when Page is supposed to face Jericho for the world title, but that's that. The agenting is not perfect, but the matches are a lot more enjoyable to watch than most WWE pay-per-views I've seen in recent time. So, like I said, these are all things that AEW needs to stick with, because these are all favorable attributes that make this product stand out as a cut above the rest. As far as my criticisms of the current AEW product are concerned, there were two things that really jumped out at me on the Fight for the Fallen show under the category of inconsistencies with heels and faces. And this is not just a reflection of how this impacts me as a viewer, but how it also impacts the people that are employed with your company. First example of this was the Brandy Rhodes Alley match. They do this promo package before the match, where Brandy is talking about how she was never supposed to succeed in wrestling. She wasn't bred for the business. She's had a lot of self-doubt throughout her life, and how she essentially found wrestling at the most important moment of her life. It's this truly genuine babyface promo designed, you would think, to rally support behind Brandy. And you had the announcers putting this over as a heartfelt speech, talking about the significance of what this match means for Brandy, blah, 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 what it could do for her career. And then they do the match, and 2 minutes in, Brandy's working as the heel. She's trash-talking the fans, she's dumping water on Allie's head, and then Awesome Kong's out there and helping Brandy cheat. She's causing distractions, she's tripping Allie up when she runs the ropes. Brandy's getting the heat for like 5 minutes. And I'm sitting there thinking, what the hell did I just watch in that pre-match promo? And see, here's where the dilemma really comes into play. It's one thing for me to be confused. It's one thing for the fans to be confused. it's another thing for the announcers to also be confused. There are numerous problems right now with AEW's announce team, and perhaps I will save that for a discussion at a later time because it's really not important in the grand scheme of what I'm discussing now. But the job of the announcers is extremely important in pro wrestling. And not only is it important, but in a nutshell, their job is really simple. They tell us the match's stories and why we should care. They give us character context and why we should cheer this person and boo that person. And they make sure to get that over in the context of the match length. And I can't remember if it was JR or Excalibur, but during the match, one of them starts speculating as to whether or not Brandy was being condescending in the video, if she was playing everyone for a fool. And all of a sudden, there's this huge web of confusion and lack of clarity in the story. The fans were confused, the announcers were confused, the whole thing was a complete mess. And I'm sorry, you just can't have that. If you want to be legit, if you don't want to be viewed as just another indie fed, you've got to have consistent character development. I understand WWE does a terrible job of distinguishing between faces and heels, but this is an area that AEW could excel in if they really applied it to their shows. And the other example of where the inconsistencies between face and heel really do this company a disservice. The promo package for the Young Bucks versus Cody and Dustin indicated to me that the Bucks were supposed to be the heels and Cody and Dustin were supposed to be the babyfaces. Right? I mean, that was the story. The Bucks were being pricks. They were mocking the Cody-Dustin embrace angle after Double or Nothing. So logic dictates, okay, so the Bucks are the villains and Cody and Dustin are the heroes. Great. Awesome. But that's not how the match was laid out. If the story is the Young Bucks are cruel heel jerks to Cody and Dustin, then the story of the match needs to be the Young Bucks are cruel heel jerks to Cody and Dustin. The story in the video can't be the Young Bucks are cruel heel jerks to Cody and Dustin, but then the match is the Young Bucks are cruel heel jerks for 50% of the match until Dustin and Cody start working over Matt Jackson's arm, and then for the other 50% of the match, the Bucks are working as the valiant babyfaces, and the Rhodes brothers are all of a sudden the villains. Like, this kind of stuff is so frustrating to me as a wrestling fan. And not just because I'm old school and I think wrestling is better when it's done simpler, but this kind of stuff is the most basic and fundamental logistics of pro wrestling. And if AEW can't get the face and heel dynamic consistent when they're merely running pay-per-views and live events for internet fans, this is not going to translate over to mainstream television. Internet fans already know about the Young Bucks and their journey to get to this point. We don't need that context. The casual wrestling audience that tunes into TNT in October, they're the ones that need the character context. They need to know who the good guys are and who the bad guys are. See, right now, AEW can get away with flip-flopping guys on the hero-villain spectrum, mainly because we already know who these guys are. Plus, we're very forgiving when it comes to logic gaps in pro wrestling as it is, especially with booking. But it's especially important for them to get this right because, like it or not, AEW doesn't have Hulk Hogan. They don't have The Rock. They don't have Stone Cold Steve Austin. They don't have John Cena. They don't have those larger-than-life stars that casual wrestling fans are going to recognize from elsewhere. The closest guy that they have to a big-name star is Chris Jericho. And even then, he's not quite on that same notoriety level as the other guys I just mentioned. I think MJF can get there one day if they really went all in, no pun intended, and, maybe they send him out there to do shows with guys like Bill Maher and Jimmy Kimmel and guys like that. I mean, there's your ticket right there to drawing in a casual audience to AEW to see MJF get his butt kicked on TV or pay-per-view. But he's not there yet. So AEW is going to be spending their time building up guys from scratch. And part of the way that they're going to be successful at it is maintaining a level of consistency when it comes to booking their faces and heels. And after seeing several of these AEW shows, they still seem too stuck on the independent circuit mentality of booking, where when so-and-so wrestles for PWG, he's a heel, but when he's wrestling for ROH or AAA or Impact Wrestling, he's a babyface, and vice versa. And it's particularly frustrating to talk about this subject when stuff like this is happening on the same show where you have guys like MJF. MJF is absolutely phenomenal. I cannot say enough good things about this guy, and I'll tell you why. There's no inconsistencies with him. There's no blurring of the lines as to where his character lies on the spectrum. MJF is a clear-cut villain. He talks like a heel, he works like a heel, he gets a heel reaction from the fans. People love to hate this guy. Like, MJF is the Ted DiBiase of AEW. He is the ravishing Rick Rude of AEW. A self-conceited, pompous prick with a big mouth and no redeeming qualities. And why? Because he's better than you and you know it. He's the best heel in pro wrestling since Tommaso Ciampa. So that's the category. Inconsistencies with character dynamic. The other thing AEW needs to cut out is allowing guys to flip the bird in the middle of matches and go into business for themselves. And I know this is sort of an outdated insider term, but I think it's important to address because this also happened at the Fight for the Fallen show, particularly in the opening six-man. This really bothered me. It's MJF, Sammy Guevara, and the chairman Sean Spears, which is like the greatest nickname I've ever heard in my life, versus Darby Allin, Jimmy Havoc, and Joey Janela. And I know that Jim Cornette's had less than stellar things to say about Joey Janela as of late, and I've tried not to immediately jump to conclusions about anyone because I do like to give people the benefit of the doubt, but I can't defend this. Joey Janela giving a guy a Death Valley driver on the apron and then flipping off the camera saying, "F you, Cornette," it's completely unacceptable. It's not cool, and it's not edgy. It's unprofessional, it's petulant, and it makes your company look Bush League. And especially when we know it's not building towards anything. That's the really infuriating part about this. I mean, Jim even said during his Experience podcast this week that he has no plans of signing with AEW in the future. So unless the intent is to set up an angle down the road with Janela and Cornette having an in-ring face-off of some sort, all this equated to was superfluous garbage that left an ink splotch on the product. That's all it was. So Joey, with all due respect, sir, as someone that truly wants to see you and your colleagues succeed in this business going forward, here's a reality check. No one cares about your beef with Cornette, and no one cares about your dumb fight with Enzo Amore at a Blink-182 concert. What people do care about is seeing you make a lot of money and have a successful wrestling career. So please, do yourself a favor. Get over yourself. Get over your distaste for Cornette. Cut out the childish garbage during your matches and be a professional. So these are just a handful of examples that I wrote down in my notes. There are other things that I would like to discuss about AEW going forward. Pros and cons, things they need to work on, things they need to fix, things that they can keep because they are working, blah, blah, blah. I would also like to hear from you all, anything that I have not mentioned here that you think would be of good note to take with AEW. Good, bad, indifferent, whatever. All right. Let me quickly recap some of my notes from the New Japan G1. This is the first G1 that I'm planning to watch all the way through, as opposed to just catching some highlights in individual matches. I'm in for the long haul on this one. And so far, I have been enjoying it. So far, my top matches in the tournament have been Lance Archer and Will Ospreay from night 1, Juice Robinson and Shingo Takagi from night 2, Hiroki Goto and Jay White from night 2, Will Ospreay and Sonata from night 3, Kazuchika Okada and Zack Sabre Jr. from night 3, Kota Ibushi and Evil from night 3, Juice Robinson and Hiroki Goto from night 4, and Tomohiro Ishii and Jay White from night 4. And Jay White, he's really interesting to me. It's like, he's had some really great matches so far, especially that match with Ishii from night 4. I mean, that was outstanding. He's got a lot of upside as a performer. But there's still something missing with him. And I don't know what it is. I guess a lot of it boils down to the fact that he's got a very generic look. I mean, when he was in ROH, he looked like he was 12 years old. I mean, now he's got some facial hair, so he looks at least 18, but I don't know. He's got some charisma as a performer. There's definitely a lot of room for growth with him. I mean, he's very new to the business. When did he start wrestling? Like 2013, I think his wiki page said. I'm going to look that up real quick just to confirm, because I do like to have my facts intact here during the show. Yeah, Jay White, Wikipedia. Scroll down. Yep, February 19th, 2013 is when he debuted. So he's got a long career ahead of him. Maybe he'll grow on me. I mean, it took me a long time to come around to guys like Strong, O'Reilly, and Fish. So, I don't know. Like I said, there is something there with Jay. He's got a lot of upside to him, but he's swimming with sharks over there in New Japan. So, it's going to be hard for him to climb up the ladder and improve. But I think there's potential there. So anyway, those are all the highlights of the G1 so far. Most of the matches I've really enjoyed, for the most part. There have been some clunkers, though. Ishii and Jeff Cobb from Night 2 was a complete letdown for me. I know this is controversial. I know people raved about this match and said it was fantastic. I thought it was really disappointing. And it sucks because I do like Jeff Cobb. He's a great talent. He's a great athlete. But so far, he has had 2 matches in the G1. Keep in mind, I'm recording this on Thursday, July 18th in the afternoon, so I have not seen Night 6 with the B Block yet. I know he has a match set for then against, oh man, who's he facing? Do I really have to pull my notes out again? Well, I know he has a match with the B Block. We'll just skip it for now, because I'm trying to make a point here. I've seen both of Cobb's G1 matches, and both of them have been really poor in execution. And the Ishii-Cobb match was more disappointing to me because after that tag match from Night 1, where they were building up to the Ishii and Cobb big Haas fight in the making feel, I was really expecting a hard-hitting brawl. And then they started throwing these weak-looking punches. Cobb got blown up like 5 minutes into the match. It never really progressed out of first gear for me. So, I don't know. Not for a lack of effort on their part, because they definitely worked hard. I mean, there's no doubt in my mind that these guys really tried. But the chemistry between them never translated over from their tag match at Night 1 to their singles match at Night 2. Like I said a minute ago, a lot of people really liked that match, and that's great if you did. But I thought it was a letdown. Toru Yano and Tetsuya Naito from Night 2 sucked. Just stupid. I know the annual gimmick is Yano finds a way to outsmart guys and comically pick up wins in the tournament, but Naito's supposed to be one of New Japan's top guys. I mean, this would be equivalent to Santino Marella getting a fluke roll-up on John Cena at a pay-per-view. I mean, people would crap all over that finish if that happened. So, it was dumb. And I found it particularly insulting, not just because Yano beat Naito with a roll-up of all things. Meanwhile, I'm watching matches earlier in the year with Naito and Ibushi dropping each other on their heads and necks, and they're still kicking out of each other's finishers. But it was insulting to me because, like, I don't mean to come across as patronizing here, but if I'm supposed to buy that the G1 is the most important tournament of the year, and it's where New Japan's best performers put on their best matches, it's where the guys really put on their working boots and showcase their elite attributes on a grand stage, I shouldn't be seeing one of New Japan's top guys get pinned because he got his shirt pulled over his head, schoolboyed, and pinned in less than 5 minutes. You want to have comedy? That's fine. But there's a right time and a right place to do it. And this ain't it. So, hopefully they got their big laugh match out of the way and we won't have to see any more of that. And the other match that was a big letdown for me was Jeff Cobb and Jon Moxley from Night 4. Again, I like Cobb. I like Moxley. Both guys are great wrestlers. But this one just didn't do it for me. It was plodding, it was uneventful, and the finish was lame. I mean, I guess the idea was that Moxley was supposed to give Cobb a Death Rider off the second rope, but the way they shot it with the camera, it looked like a normal DDT, and then Moxley won, and the announcers are like, oh, I guess that was a Death Rider. Okay, great, awesome. Next. So, altogether, this is where I left off so far with the G1. Couple of clunkers here and there, but generally I've been enjoying the tournament so far. This is the first year that I'm planning to watch New Japan all the way from Wrestle Kingdom through the end of the year. And it's been a good year for the company, I would say. I definitely think they're a hurting unit without Kenny Omega there. Same goes with Chris Jericho. I think those are two talents that sort of killed their main event scene a little bit. But they're making do with what they have, so I mean, like I said, they're about building up stars. And the thing that I appreciate about New Japan is that they don't rush with things. They take the old school mentality. You take a guy, if you want to build him into a main event star, you start from ground zero and you just slowly progress him up the card over time. You don't rush into it. You don't force him there. You just take your time. So this is the part of New Japan's booking that I really do like. So looking forward to Night 5. I know that Will Ospreay and Kota Ibushi have been battling some injuries as of late, and they've got a huge match set for the A block on Night 5, so I'll keep those guys in my prayers while I'm watching. Hopefully they don't kill themselves. So, I think that's all I've got for discussion material on the first episode. Real quick, I would like to address this, just to give a taste as to some future projects I'd like to pursue on this channel in the future. I would like to do a combined video series with NXT reviews and retro Raw and SmackDown reviews. For those curious, I started watching the WWF back in 1997, right before the birth of the Attitude Era, and something that's been of interest to me as of late is making plans to go back and look at those historical shows in context. And 1997 is a very substantial year in pro wrestling history, especially for the WWF. So I figured, why not make a video series out of it? I can start in January of 1997 and work my way forward. And since I already watch NXT on a week-to-week basis and the shows aren't that long, I can kill two birds with one stone and do a combined video series where I review NXT shows and then I'll talk about a retro Raw show for the week. Maybe I can do the pay-per-view reviews too. Or, if anything, just talk about the important notes from the pay-per-views. So let me know what you think about that idea. Just to get a fresh start on it, though, since we're already a few weeks into the build-up for the upcoming NXT TakeOver, I think what would be best is I hold off on the video series until after NXT TakeOver Toronto. I do the usual Plan Monday uploads, and then I'll figure out a date later in the week to record and upload the NXT Retro Raw and SmackDown series. I mean, obviously with SmackDown, I'll have to wait till 1999 for that to happen, but, if any of you newcomers have ideas or recommendations for other video series I could potentially do, feel free to let me know. I'm open to just about anything right now. Again, this is a fresh channel starting from ground zero, essentially. So the only platform I have is the one that I gain with steady and slow progress. One thing I am going to have to work on is maintaining my voice. I seem to have a very difficult time talking for extended periods of time without getting a little bit of congestion in my voice. So hopefully we'll fix that. Anyway, that'll wrap up episode 1 of the FSWR. Again, I'd like to thank you for your time if you stuck through all the way with me. Hope you found this enjoyable, insightful, or engaging. Maybe you found it pitiful and horrendous. And while I hope that's not the case, feel free to leave your feedback down below. I'd love to hear from you. Again, we are starting with a blank slate right now, people. So I will be fairly engaging with the comment section to try and build up some rapport. Also, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Give the video a like if you don't mind. And make sure you stay posted every Monday morning for new uploads and new discussions on wrestling topics from the 5 Starr Wrestling Report. Anyway, that's it, folks. Have a good week, and I will talk to you again next Monday.